Welcome to Eurovision Kiki. We're three Americans who have fallen in love with Eurovision. I'm Doug.
I'm Steven.
I'm Katie, and here on Eurovision Kiki, we're bringing you the best information about the Eurovision Song Contest.
We'll bring you the music, history, traditions,
And all the tea currently surrounding the world of Eurovision.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another Kiki. Katie is still gallivanting around the world, so she is not here with us today. But you know what? We are going to hold down the fort, aren't we, Stephen?
We sure are, because we promised Katie that while she's honeymooning, we would do that. And today's guest is nobody. It's just the two of us.
Just us.
Yeah, we were blessed to have Sean, and then we were blessed to have other Katie, but this time it's just the two of us, and that's okay. We will have Katie back with us next session, and for now, you all are just stuck with us.
So today we are going to sort of pay our respects. No, they're not dead. Pay homage to Cyprus because they were the first ones to give us more than just for participating, right? Like, we now know who Cyprus is going to send. So they are going to be sending Theo Evans, who is a Cyprus citizen. And it's the first time since 2017 that somebody of their country is representing them. So we thought we would talk a little bit about Cyprus as a whole today.
Yeah. So a little backstory about Theo Evan. He has a little bit of US in him as well. He did study music at Berklee College of Music in Boston. With his history and background there, he has since really tried to expand his musical presence. He has since got his library building on YouTube. His first single was The Wall back in 2021. And of his songs, The Wall has the most streams on YouTube right now. His lyrics
Yeah,
are
I think
not
there's 40,000 streams,
something
which,
close to that.
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to start somewhere. And my guess is as we get more viewership and as we get more and more into the 2025 Eurovision season, we're going to see those numbers climb higher.
For sure.
I will say, as I was looking at some of his other songs, such as So Cold, and some of the other ones, they're not the most family-friendly song lyrics that you would necessarily sit the children down to and say, what do you think
Well,
about Theo Evan?
they aren't subtle lyrics.
No.
A lot of times you can have not family friendly, but the kids don't understand it, so they're singing along. No worries, family's like, this is not, my kid's not going to understand it. But when he's like, I want to get you naked and go down on you, you're like, oh, okay, that's straight up what you're saying. Okay, cool.
But when you're also saying, you smell like cigarette ashtrays and I want to, ride you on this carpet, it's not necessarily something that I would expose my nieces to, per se. Something that I would maybe expose my dog to. But again, she might not fully grasp exactly what all of that means at the time that she's listening to it,
And I'm not saying that music must always be family friendly.
No. Not at all.
But I think we can sometimes be a little bit more subtle about our lyrics.
Yeah. Now what I will say, and this comes from ESC_news_ on Instagram, and shout out to them because I do appreciate the follow as well as us following them back. According to them, Theo Evan is already in the studio, and his people have reportedly already come out and said that they're expecting him to put out a song that will combine a pop sound with more modern influences, which they're hoping will highlight some of Theo's dynamic stage presence. What I will say in watching his music videos that have been posted on YouTube. He does have some good choreo and stage performance. I think that does come from his background and theater training as well. It's also been noted that he can be spotted as an extra on HBO's hit series Euphoria.
Which I'm now going to have to go back and like watch and look
I
specifically
know.
for that. Because obviously when I watched it at the time, I'm not looking for him.
I'm not, because it's like, who is Theo Evan? I don't know him.
Right.
I don't know him. So now I have to rewatch the 2 seasons to see if I can pinpoint him. But that does make me excited because, yeah, the choreo is good.
The choreo, okay, so in the music video for So Cold, there was a lot of like finger pointing and like I was at a rave, like it was the early 2000s. It was a choice.
I did like the fur coat that he was wearing. I'm pretty sure it was faux fur too, so don't come at me, people. But like,
I don't know. The whole music video was a little bit interesting for me. I won't say that I loved it, but I also didn't necessarily hate it. And Stephen, I think I texted you when you first showed me this music video. I was like, this feels like a gay guy trying to describe sex with a woman. That's what the song felt for me.
Who may or may not still be a virgin altogether. We don't know yet. But
right.
the jury's out. And you know what, Theo, if you're listening,
I mean, you're on your journey, you do your thing.
You're on your journey, and we're not here to bash by any means. If you at any point in time want to come kiki with us and chat, we'd love to have you, and we would love to hear more about you. So
on a positive note,
yeah.
Just a quick positive note to end on for Theo, I will say that like if you look at his music, he started with The Wall in 2021. He's got some songs that are out from 2024. I do feel like we are seeing a progression in just like 3 years from some songwriting. It has become a little bit more, I don't know if the mature is the right word, but it does feel like there is some progression that we're seeing. And I'm excited to see where that goes, and what you described as like modern and pop and bringing it all together. All right, let's see what Cyprus is going to bring us for 2025.
Let's see. Absolutely. Cyprus has always been one of those countries that I get somewhat hyped up for, but it's also been one of those countries that has a history with Eurovision where it's a hodgepodge and you just don't know what you're going to get.
What to expect from year to year is a little bit.
Yeah,
let's put it's not consistent. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that which makes them consistent. They're consistent at being inconsistent, and I think
inconsistent.
Exactly, and I think that is a great topic for today's episode, and just focusing on the history and backstory of Cyprus and their journey in Eurovision. So, Doug, take us through a little bit of background and knowledge of just the country, but also some of the highlights that we may be able to note throughout their journey in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Sure. Let's first just talk about where is Cyprus. It's in the Mediterranean. They have a population of roughly 923,000. They are the third largest island in the Mediterranean behind Sicily and Sardinia. So they are pretty small, all things considered. They're besties with Greece, as we know. And they did win their independence from the United Kingdom, as, everybody had to. And so they celebrate their Independence Day on October 1st. And they've been independent since 1960. So just kind of a little bit about their background generally. So Cyprus has participated starting back in 1981. So we've seen them pretty much every year since, except for there were 2 years where they didn't participate, 2001 and 2014. 2001, they didn't qualify because of the average scores from previous contests. This was before the semifinals.
So you had mentioned that way back in the day, when we had one of our history 101s of Eurovision, where if you did not qualify the year before, you kind of had to like sit out the following year. Or if you were
you had your
the
rotating
hashtag
bottoms.
the rotating bottoms. Yes, the hashtag rotating bottoms. That will forever live in my head. See.
So yes, they did not qualify. They were in the bottom, so they had to sit that one out in 2001. But in 2014, it was their choice to sit out. I guess there had been some financial crisis going on in Cyprus, and there was public opinion, and they just had budget restrictions, and so they withdrew from the contest for the 2014 season. But they came back in 2015, and of course, we've seen them participating every year since.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about maybe what languages they've used. I would say that by far and away, English has been their most successful with their songs. They've done several times in Greek, and then of course they did a Greek-English fusion just a few years ago. But one thing I will mention is that in 2007, they did a song in French. Yeah, the person who did this, I will butcher the name, Evridiki.
Okay.
She performed in 1992 and 1994 for them. So 2007 was her third time participating with Cyprus. So it's not like she was new to the Eurovision stage at that point. But they did the song in French, and that feels like a choice. Have you seen this, Stephen? Have you seen this video?
I've not, so now I have to go back and watch it and get like the full experience. So for the time being, you're just gonna have to walk me through this one.
Well, I feel like it's a pretty easy walkthrough. Imagine me getting on the stage and trying to sing in French. That's what it sounded like. And this is no disrespect for somebody who's getting on the Eurovision stage, because I could never. But it didn't seem that she was comfortable. I felt uncomfortable like watching it because she didn't seem comfortable singing in French.
Okay. I mean, if you're gonna, points to her, or props to her at least, for, taking a risk. It may not have been a risk that worked in their advantage, but they tried something.
And 2007 was part of their non-qualifier streak, so the song didn't make it out of the semis, and I think it showed.
Yeah, they went a solid 8 years not qualifying before they finally broke that streak.
They definitely had a rough patch.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. But the songs were a combination of English and Greek, and then there was the French song. So I don't know that there was any sort of one thing you can look at and say, oh, this is the reason. There was just some song choices. In 2008, they didn't qualify with Femme Fatale, and it felt dated. Like, it didn't seem like you were doing a song in 2008. It felt like you were doing a song in like the 70s or something.
Yikes. That's rough.
Yeah. It hasn't been great. It has been up and down, but let's be positive here for a moment. They have had their best placement ever in 2018, which I think, Stephen, you know what that is.
I love me some Fuego, which is a song that I continuously bop to this day. Probably even bop to it this morning while I was on the workout train. So, yes, I love her.
If you don't have this song on your like Eurovision general playlist, like, you are absolutely missing out.
No.
Why it only got second place?
It was
my thoughts.
That was a competitive year to begin with. We have to just kind of like examine that because Netta took 2018 that year with Toy, but for Eleni Foraria to represent Cyprus that year and come out with Fuego was great. And then, like I said, we got to see a highlight of her this year to do a little snippet as part of the opening for this year at 2024 Eurovision. And the rumor mills are also circulating that maybe she'll represent Greece this year, though they're saying that she might have missed some important deadlines to actually officially
Whoopsies.
compete. Whoopsies, but that's not to negate that she is still out there kind of, let it be known that she's been out there saying maybe I don't have anything left in me, but maybe I do. I don't know. So, but regardless, that was a year that she took the stage by storm and set it ablaze and really let the people know that Cyprus was not playing around that year.
And achieved their best result to date. So, I just looking back at like the last, I don't know, 24 years of Eurovision, because truly I do feel like there is a difference between like sort of like modern day Eurovision with the idea that you are going to have a full on production and a dance moment and all this stuff. And before, just you had your composer and your band and you just stood on stage and singing. So there does feel like a shift. So I just wanted to take a look at the last 24 years and sort of the top 5 placements.
Yeah.
And so all of these songs were essentially in English. You have second place in 2018 with Fuego. In 2004, they got 5th place with Stronger Every Minute. 2002, they got 6th place with Feeling Alive. 2023, 12th place with Break a Broken Heart. And 2019, they got 13th place with Replay. So those were the top 5.
And I will say, I'm more familiar with modern Eurovision,
like within the last
songs
10 years,
within the
right?
last 10 years. Yeah. So, Break a Broken Heart and Replay, I'm a little bit more familiar with those ones than I am with Feeling Alive and Stronger Every Minute. So I can speak a little bit more on them than the other two. But I know that you had the opportunity to peruse the Cyprian Eurovision library, if you will.
I did. And I mean, they were okay. Nothing.
Yeah.
Of these top 5, I think for me, Fuego, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
duh.
Yeah.
But beyond that, for me, Break a Broken Heart. But were we watching that performance for the music?
I mean, whoever broke his broken heart should be like ridiculed severely, and also
we will go to war for him. Is that what you're saying?
We will go to war for him, and I will, I will mend that broken heart and just nuzzle up against that little face, that little chest of his, and all of the things. Children listen to this. Yeah, children listen to this.
I did appreciate the song. I enjoyed the song. I do look at this and go, even when we look at the top 5, only 3 times have they broken the top 10.
Yeah.
So what's going on? They can make it to the finals, but they're not making it very high.
It's hot and cold, honestly, every time. And I don't know. I mean, it's an amalgamation of things. Like we know this by now. It's a combination of polarity with just the popular vote, but it's also, when they do get to the grand final and you've got jury involvement, there's going to be the politics that are factored in there. If they don't have some of their close buddies involved in that mix, they're going to find themselves at the bottom end of that ranking system.
I want somebody to do a deep dive and say, when the semifinals happened, if Cyprus and Greece were in the same semifinal together, did they make finals? And if they weren't in the same semifinal together, did they not qualify? Like, I wonder if there's a correlation there.
I think 2022 is a good example of that, because I think you and I had some very similar thoughts about I'm going to slaughter her stage name, Andra Machi, I think is how you try to say it, at least. Her song Ella, as a recorded song, I will say it is beautiful, and I actually love it because she has a very good split of English and, I believe, Greek melody and vocals going on in that song. But Greece and Cyprus were split because Greece performed in semifinal 1 and Cyprus performed in semifinal 2. Now, Greece did qualify in 2022. She did qualify. Cyprus did not. But you and I have talked about this, where we felt as though Cyprus's live performance was not super strong and had some hindrances where it just didn't fully come together as a live performance, whereas Greece actually did do well live. But there could have been some things going on with Greece where maybe she had a little bit stronger allyship in that mix of performers
Well,
than
and so if you don't
Cyprus.
have your strongest ally with you,
Yep.
and if you don't have maybe your strongest performance live, that is going to come into play.
Because 2022, we have to put ourselves back in 2022 realm. That was prior to the change in popular vote getting you moved over to the grand final. So that was a year that the advancement to the grand final relied pretty heavily on who was in your semifinal mix and who those juries were going to be submitting their votes for.
So back in 2022, it was a combination of both public and jury. So
jury votes still mattered. Yeah.
Yes, jury votes 100% still mattered. As you noted, like Greece was not in their semifinal with them. And so if you look at where they landed, Ella was 12th place. Obviously, we know the top 10 advance, but they missed the mark by a solid 30 points. So this wasn't a situation of, oh, they just missed it by a few points. No, they really weren't going to make that one.
Yeah. You know, and now that I think about it, well, no, because you had mentioned you really did enjoy El Diablo in 2021, correct?
Okay, so if you ask me, like, which is my favorite Cyprus, I will obviously start with Fuego, because, you know.
Because duh.
But El Diablo is my favorite Cyprus, Fuego aside, right?
Yeah.
It is a personal favorite. 2021, she did make it into the finals, and she was ranked 16th in that final. Now, I will say it is because of, in my opinion, that live performance. Even if you go back and you watch her semifinal performance, even compared to her finals performance, they're very different.
Oh, yeah. Her final was shaky.
She had a rough go of it. And that's, I think for how rough that finals performance was, her getting 16th was a fantastic outcome.
You're so generous.
I'm being generous in that sense because I love the song so much. Like the studio version and again her semi-final performance of that song were far better. And that is definitely a situation where this is a live singing competition and your live vocals matter.
Could have been the curse of that number 2 slot. Because if I remember correctly, she
opened up the finals.
Did she open the finals? I thought she was number 2 in the grand final.
All right, now you're gonna
I know. Google it. Yeah, Google it.
Fact checking me. Finals. Cyprus. Yep, she was first.
Oh well, okay.
Albania was the person who went second, and they got 21st. So there's the curse.
Did you say Albania? No. Because Albania... Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Albina. I was like, what are you talking about? This is why you should not be a performing artist with a name so similar to a country. Albania.
So no, El Diablo, she opened up the contest. And maybe there were nerves involved.
Could have been
because in
that.
her semifinal, I think she was 8th in the run order. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's a nice, solid spot. The competition's been going on. You get out there, you do your thing. Whereas maybe there was nerves involved.
It could have totally been that. Absolutely. So, well, Cyprus has definitely jump-started 2025 Eurovision season. What Theo Evan will bring to it this year, I can't wait, because again, Cyprus has been one of those countries you just don't know what you're going to get. So I'm excited to see what's in store, and am really just looking forward to other countries start pumping them out, telling us what's to come.
Well, and Cyprus being the first one to sort of like break the seal of some more information. So we still don't know what song they're sending, but at least we know who the artist is. And for everybody who's in this Eurovision bubble, the folks who are following the news stories every single day wanting something, at least now we have like the smallest percentage of something for the contest. We know who Cyprus is sending. So thank you,
Yes.
Cyprus, for at least giving us something.
Thank you so much, Cyprus. And like I said earlier, Theo, if this ever enters your algorithm, drop by. We'd love to kiki sometime. But in the meantime, to our listeners, thank you as always for listening. Feel free to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our platforms. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. Got questions? As always, you can drop those to us at eurovisionkiki@gmail.com. Doug, any final parting words before we sign off?
Let's get those countries rolling. I want to know who else is going. Let's do it.
For
The
real, y'all.
season has started. It is
I know.
officially fall. It is time. Let's do it.
Yes. And I was doing the math. And also, when I say I was doing the math, I looked at the calendar. When this episode drops, it will be October 1st. So happy Independence Day, Cyprus. And with that,
Woo!
we'll see you all at our next Kiki. Bye.